Hi there, welcome to another edition of Jamaica Magazine. I'm Adrian Atkinson. In today's show, we'll have insights on Jamaica's plan for a national identification system, plus alternative livelihoods for banana farmers affected by the removal of the preferential market in the European Union. Sit back and relax for these and more to come as we turn the pages of Jamaica Magazine.
Nominations are now open for the 2017 Prime Minister's Youth Awards for Excellence. Persons 15 to 29 years old may apply and be recognized for their work in 11 exciting categories. There's also a Jamaica 55 commemorative category for youth engaged in community-based volunteerism. Access nomination forms by visiting moey.gov.jm, youthjamaica.com, or any youth information center across the island. Nominations close August 31.
The government is working to establish a national identification system so that all citizens of Jamaica can be easily recognized across state entities and service points. This will help to eliminate identity theft and assist with proper planning and development of the country. More in this feature. The government is moving towards implementing a national identification system NIDS that will become the primary source for identity assurance and verification of all Jamaican citizens. The NIDS will establish a reliable and accurate database and provide each individual with a legal identity. Citizens by birth or persons ordinarily resident in Jamaica will be issued a National Identification Number NIN and a National Identification Card.
A NIN is from cradle to death. Upon death, it is retired in the system, but it is never used again for anyone else.
To receive this card and facilitate the data collection process, persons will be asked to provide key information. Information required includes your name, date of birth, address, email, and phone number. In addition, your photograph and fingerprint will be taken. The biographic and biometric information are mandatory for the identity verification database. However, it's voluntary for individuals to provide information on their place of employment, profession, family status, education, and religion. So what will not be collected?
DNA will not be collected. Let me just mention quickly that financial information will not be collected either. Political affiliation and sexual orientation is omitted, and it states so in the bill.
The following documents will be required where applicable once enrollment begins in September 2018.
If somebody refuses to sign up for the NIDS, there won't be a penalty in the sense that there is no punitive measures outlined in the bill that is before Parliament.
The National Identification Card will display your name, nationality, place and date of birth, and address. The card will also bear a unique 9-digit number. The numbers will be randomly selected and bear no relation to your date of birth or sex. The 9 digits are in keeping with the same number of digits in the tax registration number TRN, and also to fit into systems that are already configured to accommodate 9 digits.
We wanted to facilitate a situation where there would not be this enormous retrofitting.
The initial ID is free, and if you do lose your ID, there will be a cost to replace it initially.
The National Identification System will give the government an authoritative position to be able to identify its citizens. It will also provide accurate data for national planning, eliminate multiple government-issued IDs, and create a shared data system within ministries, departments, and agencies of government. NIDS will seek to eliminate multiple identities and identity theft, strengthen immigration and border control, and ensure public and national safety. It will also improve the country's international standing and credibility.
Once we put this in and all of us have our national identification numbers and cards, there is no question who we are. So when you're doing business with an overseas entity or locally, it is giving us, as the people of Jamaica and the country, far more credibility in the international sphere.
The benefits to citizens are many. In addition to the One ID, One Identity, it will enable better delivery of service by the state and the private sector.
If you look at countries who are progressing and are trying to move into the digital age and give better service to their citizens, you have to, as a criteria, have a way of identifying your citizens. For example, how many people need welfare in this particular parish? How many kids need PATH? Is there duplication among people accessing government benefits? Is there a better way of assessing the people in a particular area in terms of, are they accessing enough benefits? So that is the idea. So it's a holistic development of doing business, making it easier to do business, giving you a confirmed identity.
And what of the private sector? A key component is that it will support the Know Your Customer requirements for banks and other businesses.
This is going to enhance that tremendously and allow them to have better, be able to negotiate with their correspondent bankers much better.
As for the benefits to the government of Jamaica, this range from efficiency and cost savings to simplified documentation, streamlining of business processes, and facilitating the public sector modernization process.
The project is a national identification system project, but it's going to have a huge positive impact in the re-engineering of a lot of processes within the government of Jamaica, and as a result, make us far more efficient.
But what are the security measures that will be put in place to protect the national identification system? One is that the information captured will be secured and stored on a national civil and identification database. The experts will take it from here.
We are putting in place fit-for-purpose data, security and usage policies. We are also putting in place fit-for-purpose, based on international standards, physical security to protect our data center. Our data, let me say our data will be stored in the Government of Jamaica data center.
So we are spending a lot of money, there's a lot of infrastructure being put in place, and we are ensuring that all access to data is managed, is audited, and is controlled.
The National Identification and Registration Authority Bill NIRA, which is now before the House of Representatives, has also included provision for penalties if breaches or abuse of data do occur.
The bill is very clear, and the bill has a section that focuses on the punitive measures that the government will take, up to $4 million and 4 years in prison if you abuse the data, especially for persons working within the database management organization.
Some things you should note are that
access to your data must be initiated by you.
The agencies cannot go on the system and download. You can't browse my information. If I am, my data is on the system, nobody can go and browse on and see what is there. The police cannot access the data without a court order, and that is in the bill. And external agencies and foreign governments cannot just go and access the information.
the Registrar General's Department will be transformed into the new authorized body to administer the National Identification System. The name will be changed to the National Identification and Registration Authority, NIRA, and will fall under the Office of the Prime Minister.
The functions of the RGD, that is the civil registry, will continue within NIRA, and then NIRA also has the responsibility for identity management.
A national rollout of the National Identification System is expected for April 2019.
And we are confident that when the project is implemented, all of our lives will be better and more secure and safer.
As people come onto the system, as the system becomes more trustworthy, as Jamaicans develop more confidence in the system, the policymakers will eventually move to a point where it becomes one ID.
We feel honestly that it's going to be a game changer in a positive way for Jamaica.
Businessmen and women, members of the MSMEs, no longer do you have to visit several government agencies to register a company or business name. Visit the COJ. They are willing and prepared to assist you in filling out the new business registration form, more commonly known as the Super Form.
The overwhelming response from the majority of our customers is, why did this take so long to happen? There are persons who actually waited until January 2nd to come here to do their business because they wanted to avoid going to multiple government departments.
Click on ocrjamaica.com for more details.
A group of business development facilitators calling themselves First Angels Investors have been focusing on investing in early-stage companies, providing training and financing either at startup or to facilitate growth. In our next feature, we meet these angels of wealth creation.
Financing, lack of technical expertise, major hurdles for many entrepreneurs. To move from hustling to an established business is no easy feat for startups, but help is coming from those who've walked the path. Jamaica, the best place in the Caribbean to do business. So says the world-renowned Forbes magazine. The business magazine also named Jamaica the third best business country in Latin America and the Caribbean. Such high accolade is evidence that the local business environment is improving, that the culture of Jamaica being a bottleneck bureaucratic business place is being eradicated. When the business environment improves, investors will come, and they've been coming. First Angels Jamaica is one of the most recent investors, and their aim is to revolutionize the entrepreneurial sector. They have the money and the skill. First Angels is headed by Joseph M. Matalan, Sandra Glasgow, and John J.J. Giwax. They are joined by 9 other members drawn from Jamaica and other countries. They invest in businesses as a group or individually.
We are a part of a worldwide movement. We are supported by the World Bank's InfoDev program. We just decided to take the plunge. So a group of us, entrepreneurs, decided that we were going to start the network and enlist others. And over the last 7 months or so, we have increased our number to 13 investors and 2 associate members, KPMG and Hartmuir-Head FATA.
This network of angel investors is focused on financing early-stage companies in Jamaica and the wider Caribbean.
By the end of 2015, to have invested in 5 companies as a start.
Interested persons will have to apply through the group's website. Successful applicants will receive coaching on how to make a successful pitch and/or will participate in a one-day training program. This is followed by an invitation for the entrepreneurs to pitch their business venture to the investors, who may either express interest or decline to invest in the companies. If it's a go, the investors will then undertake due diligence, which includes issuing a term sheet.
Each investment is different, and entrepreneurs come with different levels of ask. So we have people who want $100,000 US or $40,000 US or $80,000. So it really depends on the business, what stage it is at, whether it's a startup or it's a growing business. So we haven't put a dollar amount on our investment. And the angel investors, who are individual investors, decide amongst themselves how much they are going to invest.
First Angels Jamaica has already stamped its mark in the business sector by putting its money where its mouth is. First Angels Jamaica has provided technical support to projects that are part of the Startup Jamaica program. The investor group has also inked its first investment deal with local startup company DRT Communications.
The process is arduous. It pushes you to get your ducks in a row, creating a solid business, a sustainable business, a business that is going to continue to work. And working with First Angels, the process is clear, the framework is clear, but the opportunity exists for myself and for other small to medium entities in Jamaica.
Improved services at the wharf, a MSME and entrepreneurship policy, a one-stop shop at the Companies Office of Jamaica, and a single form to file tax returns. Just a few of the reforms implemented by the government within the past few years, which have started to reap benefits. So much so that more and more investors are coming on board, like First Angels Jamaica.
Farmers across Jamaica, listen to this. Beet armyworms favor areas with high temperatures and good food supply like scallions and onions. Here are some tips on how to protect your crops from this ambush. Rotate crops, destroy all infested material, and plow damaged fields. Hand-pick and destroy eggs and tiny beet armyworms. Preserve combat fighters to help you fight armyworms. Use approved insecticides when treating crops. For information, contact your nearest RADA office or the RADA toll-free line at 1-888-ASK-RADA. That's 1-888-275-7232. Or contact the Research and Development Division Plant Protection Unit at Bodles in St. Catherine at 983-2267 or 983-2281.
Farmers affected by the removal of the preferential market in the EU have been getting assistance in finding alternative livelihoods through the Jamaica Banana Accompanying Measures Program. It's funded by the European Union. Take a look.
As early as the 1800s, Jamaica enjoyed a robust banana industry, and by 1866, the country began its export trade of the fruit. It was one of the top export produce and drivers of foreign exchange for the country. For years, the country and farmers alike enjoyed the success which saw up to 70,000 tons of banana being exported in 1993. But in the midst of this achievement were great challenges. The sector grappled with varying diseases and frequent storms and hurricanes like Gilbert in 1988 and Charlie in 1951. The banana industry also had to face trade liberalization, falling prices, and low competitiveness. This triggered a gradual decrease in export. The final blow to the banana industry and to the livelihoods of many farmers was the passing of Hurricane Dean and Tropical Storm Gustav in 2007 and 2008. During this time, export fell to its lowest level. Some 800 jobs were lost, with the closure of an estate in St. Thomas by a major stakeholder. Eventually in 2008, the export of bananas stopped. With the support of the European Union, a long-standing partner, which provided funding, the government of Jamaica implemented programs to revive the banana sector. Between 2009 and 2011, priority was given to strengthening the technical and administrative support teams of the Banana Board. And it was during this period that the EU Banana Support Program was established. Funding to support the undertakings amounted to over 116 million Jamaican dollars by the government, as well as over 677,000 euros by the EU. This strategic approach to revitalize the banana industry would see production picking up and the resumption of export in 2011.
The EU has been a great partner. In fact, it's our largest partner in the government and certainly in the agriculture sector in terms of grant resources. And those resources have helped to support in a very significant way.
European Union has been supporting the banana sector since 1996, so it's not something new, and that commitment is very strong. we recognize the importance of bananas to Jamaican people and Jamaican culture. Unfortunately, the blow to the exports in 2008 has been quite difficult to recover from. So today we are trying to support the Banana Board and the Growers Association and the small producers in order to improve their competitiveness, but also to assist them with technical expertise, to look at a variety of different types of bananas and plantains.
Over the years, the help is more than 40 billion Jamaican dollars. We have benefited tremendously as recovery from risk management, from hurricanes. They provided tremendous help to recover each time when there's a disaster.
The revitalization of the industry saw the implementation of the Jamaica Banana Accompanying Measures JBAM program in 2012. Approximately 1,400 farmers in banana-producing parishes of St. Catherine, St. Thomas, Portland, St. Mary and St. James are targeted under the program. They are introduced to new varieties of the crop, notably the Fia. This type gives 30 to 50% more yield and is good for cooking and producing chips. As the focal point with all Jamaica's international development partners, the PIOJ works with the Rural Agricultural Development Authority, RADA, to ensure that the funds provided by the EU support the country's long-term development goals.
What that means is that RADA now provides that technical support. It provides administrative support to the program to ensure that the funds received from the EU are actually spent on time, effectively, and actually do what they are actually designated to be doing. And so far, the project has actually achieved a lot on the ground.
Among the outcomes of the Jamaica Banana Accompanying Measures program are improvements to the Banana Board's laboratories. The research and development labs were outfitted with the latest equipment to carry out testing on disease samples and develop pesticides. The Banana Board is now able to produce a variety of plantlets from their new tissue culture biofactory. The projection is for the board to produce 120,000 tissue culture plantlets, that is to be supplied to participating farmers of the JBAM program per year. The calculated intervention by both the government of Jamaica and the European Union also allowed for the continued operations of the banana breeding station at Bodles in Old Harbour in St. Catherine. The Banana Board currently maintains over 150 varieties of disease-resistant banana plants. Also, JBAM supports the Growers Association through the construction of a $30 million processing plant. This will allow players in the industry to move up the value chain and benefit from the production of banana and plantain chips.
And in the future, they can look at other banana products. So we are actually empowering the growers to be involved further along the value chain, which will provide more profit, more income to the Growers Association.
Farmers also benefit from farm supplies at reasonable rates from stores operated by the All-Island Banana Growers Association.
The other thing is the availability. Because of our cash resource, thanks to the EU, we are now in a better position to improve on our inventory. So the availability of input material that is readily available to all farmers. Thirdly, from the assistance given to us, we were able to implement credit programs, which our farmers could get assistance to resuscitate their farms and so forth.
The impact of the JBAM program is far-reaching. Not only are the farmers empowered to produce, but they are able to employ workers, thus spreading the financial gains across rural communities. Another advantage to the farmers is that they get the opportunity to acquire the Global Good Agricultural Practices certification. With this international standard, they are able to trade in the export market. The certification exercise is administered under the sub-program of JBAM, called the Banana Export Expansion Program, BEEP. Its main objectives are to increase banana production with international standards, develop the technical and infrastructural support of the industry, and preserve the industry's competitiveness in both the export and domestic markets.
Well, the assistance that I have gotten is tremendous. We have a huge storeroom that we have compartmentalized to facilitate smooth operation and to prevent contamination and to make us more efficient. By ourselves, we would not have been able to.
I've also received over $1.25 million in grant from this program, this BEEP program, and this grant was used as infrastructural development. My farm is now certified as an export farm, so I'm now able to export my own fruit to various overseas countries.
The Banana Board has seen a steady increase in the export of banana and wants to take it further.
Our aim is to increase the overall production by 30%. Last year, we actually did 26%. So we are well on our way.
Export markets currently include the Cayman Islands, Canada, the United States, and the United Kingdom. Looking to the future,
the nature of EU's partnership with Jamaica will mean that we will continue supporting the government and civil society organizations in trying to improve people's lives, and that will be very much also relevant to the agricultural area.
The ministry has been guiding the agricultural sector in terms of growth. We are very proud that the sector has been growing and supporting the Jamaican economy. So our vision is to put the sector in a position through expansion of irrigation, through making available lands with requisite infrastructure, to be able to produce consistently, to tap into a huge tourist market, for export, for import substitution, and in the final analysis that our rural spaces and our rural communities are strong because they depend on agriculture. That's our vision.
And that brings us to the end of today's edition of Jamaica Magazine. Join us again tomorrow when we'll do this all over again. Until then, you can click online at jis.gov.jm and visit our YouTube channel to get the latest government information. Also, follow us on Twitter and Facebook and download our app from the Google Play Store to stay informed. I am Adrian Atkinson, wishing for you peace and prosperity. Take care of your health, exercise, eat well, get adequate rest, and make every day a productive one.
This has been a production of the Jamaica Information Service, the voice of Jamaica.